Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dr. Roger Livermore. I'm the Dean of the School of Management at the Asian Institute of Technology. And I really would like to thank you for your time here this morning, as well as our two speakers today. I would introduce them very briefly, but before I do so, just a few words about why we are running these sessions. There are really two reasons. The first reason is that AIT, this university, is starting two new programs this coming August. And one of them is in digital transformation and business analytics, which is a program about how far analytics and technology have changed and will continue to change and shape industry and companies around the world and in this region in the next 5 or 10 years. So that's a program which I will send you details about in the chat box as we go through the session today. The second reason for this session is that it's what we call a teaser webinar. It's kind of an introduction to a course that these two faculty will be teaching online that starts in about 2 weeks' time. And people that can't attend the MSc program but would like to go through and learn more about the subject of business analytics, then you're welcome to go through and sign up for this short course program, and you'll get an AIT certificate at the end of it. I'll also send you a link to that particular website and how you can register and get more details about that particular short course. Okay, so without further ado, I would like to introduce you to the two faculty today. We have Dr. Rattrapon and Dr. Supasit, who are both faculty at the Asian Institute of Technology. They also have a rich level of experience in the real business world. And when we have a program that looks at business analytics, it's very important for you to actually understand some of the basics and foundations of this topic area. And that's what they're going to be talking about now for the next 30-35 minutes. And then we'll have time towards the end for you to ask your questions. And if you could ask your questions, if you can look at the bottom of your screen, there is a Q&A box. If you could try and ask your questions in the Q&A and not the chat box, it's actually easier for us to see the questions in that Q&A box. You'll be reminded about that a couple of times before we start the Q&A session in about 30 minutes time. But I would like to go through and now pass over to the two faculty who are teaching today. Over to you. Thank you.
Yes, hello. Yes, this is Rattrapon here. I'm glad to be here, and thank you, Dr. Roger, for the introduction. Dr. Supasit.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Maybe good afternoon for some of the participants. My name is Supasit Jonglatham, and we welcome you to this webinar. We will give you introductions of what lies ahead in this course. Okay, and you might as well ask questions in Q&A box and so on. So the first part of this course will be instructed by Dr. Rattrapon, and I will be handle the middle part, which is a little more of the technical part, and then Dr. Rattrapon will wrap up. So let me turn it over to Dr. Rattrapon to introduce his content. Okay, please.
Yeah. Thank you. So I'm sharing my screen, which is a presentation. So we're going to have the presentation just about like 30 to 40 minutes, depending on the pace, or it could be quicker than that. So I will be doing the easier part, which is the non-technical part, and then Dr. Supasit will do a bit the technical part. But today we will not get into technical. But what I'm saying is that Dr. Supasit will talk about the technical part that we cover in the course. And so let me start this introduction. So again, the course name is Introduction to Business Analytics, and be taught by me and Dr. Supasit here. So let's talk about the purpose of today first. The first purpose is to give you a pretty good idea of what the course will cover and what you get out of it. And then we will talk about the business problems that analytics can help with. And then we will get to know about the business analytics and some of the widely used techniques will be covered today, of course, as a teaser. So let's talk about an essential process in the business And if you have some experience in business, or if you will have experience in business, you have to do this, especially for the MBA students or management students. Annual planning. So what do we do in annual planning? Okay, and every business will have to do this. And if you are an executive, that'd be an important part of your job. So what is the first thing you need for the annual planning? It is the demand plan. Okay, so I give you some example of how what analytics can be used. So what is demand planning? Okay, so we need to start whenever you do any planning in business, the thing that you need to start with what the demand will look like. And so the demand planning actually consists of two components. One is demand forecasting, and the other one is demand management. So what is demand forecasting? Demand forecasting is for us to create a baseline demand forecast. So what is the baseline demand forecast? I will get back to that in a bit. Let's talk about demand management first. After you create the baseline demand forecast, you then might create a plan in what we call demand plan by trying to influence some of the demand. So the baseline demand forecast is like, we want the clean demand forecast without any effect of anything that we did in the past that influenced the demand. Okay. And so in order for us to create the demand plan, we need to first do the forecasting. Okay. And then we see what can we do to manage the demand. So in doing this demand planning, should we guess? And many of the companies, unfortunately, try when they do the demand plan, or sometimes, when they say they do annual plan, they might call it budgeting. Many times you're going to see that they just multiply by 1.05, basically 5% growth across the board. Should we do that? Or should we make use of analytics? Okay, and so let's see. How do we weed out the effect of promotional activities? For example, we talk about we want to create a clean line demand forecast without effect of any marketing or promotional activities that we did in the past, so that we understand. And why do we need to understand? Because otherwise, how can we plan for anything? The first, the starting point of any plan, especially for the annual plan, which is very important for any company, we need to start with this demand plan. And to do demand plan, first, we do the demand forecast, and we want the clean line, so that when we plan any marketing activities, we know how much effect that it will affect the demand. And then we can create the demand plan that be more realistic, and we understand what it is. That's why we need to do it. And so how to weed out all this effect of promotional activities in the past? Okay. Analytics will come into play a lot. You need to use a lot of statistics, the analysis, looking at how one activities in the past affect the demand, how each of the target market will respond to different type of marketing and promotional activities. So that's one example that you might need analytics to help you. Yeah. Let's go one step further in our annual plan. You start with the demand, then you need to have the supply. The supply plan. So, do you know that there actually exists an analytics technique that help you make much better decisions about how much, where, when, and where to produce the products? I give you one example. Suppose you have like 4 factories and you have like 4 different markets. In fact, the real problem will be much larger than this. Where to produce, what products to be produced, in what location, to be distributed to different markets, by how much, when and where to. This is very important in the annual planning. How do we do this? Can we really rely on that gut feeling to make the decision? Okay. So the problem that I just described in the supply planning, we have the tool and some techniques called optimization that we can use. So again, we have some tool that can, give you the analytics that you might want to make better business decisions. Okay, so what is business analytics? Okay, so this one I got it from Sahi, that he wrote a book in Harvard Business Publishing. Business analytics is a data-driven decision making. You can see that the data very important. Okay, and so it uses many of the analysis, right? Whether it's going to be statistical, quantitative analysis, information technology, and also management science. To do what? So that it can give you a measure of past business performance, so you understand past, now, and then will help guide you to make better decision in business. And so that's business analytics. Again, it's about data, it's about analysis, it's about how you get the information that you can understand the current business performance, and then will help you make better business decisions. So no more gut feeling. So in our course, the intro to business analytics, our course will be organized in 3 areas. One is in the area of data science. The other one will be in the statistics, and the last one will be in management science. And then we will go one by one to give you an overview of what that means. Let's start with data science. So data science is like, you look at this picture, you may see some data, some sample, some population, and then each of the instance will have different response of yes and no. Okay, so you have all this data. And suppose you have a new instance that doesn't exist before, or even it existed before and then it reoccur again. For example, this guy comes in. Should he be yes or should he be no? Okay. Data science can help you determine that, okay, in what we call a predictive analytics. Okay, so we can develop a model, which you will learn in the course, about how you can develop the model. And then we can use such model to go through this and then answer that this guy, he probably will be a yes. So that's example of data science and using for prediction. So I would like to pass to Dr. Supasit to probably go into the technical part of this.
Yeah. All right, now it's my turn. I'm not planning on teaching or giving all the details and technical details about data science, but these are just the areas or the tools that people have been using in business lately over the past 5 years or so. Segmentations, classifications, and clustering. So these are 3 examples. Segmentations means you are trying to separate instance or people or your customer to see which group, what kind of customers like to buy, want to buy certain types of products. Okay, then you can manage this group of customer more effectively by giving them promotions, or even sometimes you can raise the price of your products and bring in more profit as well. So that's the power of data science. Okay, classification is to see whether an individual your customers has tendency to say yes or has tendency to say no, and how would you respond to that? Okay, that's a little bit of the classification. It's a little bit like the chart that Dr. Vacharapon just showed you, but the process in data science is not at all random. We handle the randomness in our group of customers, but we have some ways to manage that randomness and find the patterns hidden within these customers. And this has been proven useful in business. Okay? The next bullet point about the clustering. Clustering means one base example is about clustering is the product recommendation systems. Have you ever tried buying something online, and when you click one product, the system or the platform tells you that people who bought this also viewed this or bought this? So these are a little bit of the clusterings, and it's hidden behind the scenes in data science. It's involved programming, but we don't have to worry about the programming. We just need to get the basic ideas, the concepts of how the data science works. Okay, so in order to get to learn those data science, you need some basics mindset. At some point in your career, whether in your professional career or in your previous formal educations, high school, universities, at any levels, you have been working with these trees, okay? Mathematics, linear equations, okay? Probabilities, and you work with Excel. Even if you don't work with Excel very much, we will have a chance to review Excel functions, and I provide you with some tips and tricks to handle your data tables, things like that. People have been talking about model, data science, and mathematical models. What exactly are those models? Is it something that you can touch? Of course not. Mathematical models is in fact the equations. You are trying to predict something based on some known information, okay? And in order to get these equations, you study your own data sets, the historical data. And if you think that it's not quite enough, you can also seek additional external data in order to predict your target variables more effectively. Okay, so these are what people refer to as the model. It's basically the mathematical equations, or to be very specific, in this course, we will deal with linear equations most of the time. Moving on to the next thing, the next foundations that you need is the probability, tossing coin, rolling dice, and things like this. You flip coin, you toss coin once, you know that's the probability of coins turning up head or turning up tail is 1/2, 50%, okay, 0.5. But what happens if you keep flipping the coins for like 100 times and it's not 50 and 50? How would you say that? What exactly is the probability of that coin? Is it a fair coin? Things like this. We will have some methodologies in mathematics and probabilities and in statistics as well to determine what exactly are those probabilities. Okay. The next bullet point under probability is Bayes' rule. Some of you probably heard about Bayesian statistics. It's come from Bayes' rules. It's basically how you update your expectations, how you update your expectation when you see some more information coming in your way. This would help you make decisions more effectively. Okay, we have simulation games. We have some things for you to play with in these conditional probabilities and Bayes' rules. The next bullet point for this foundation slide, the foundation part of this course, is to get yourself used to Excel functions. My idea about presenting or trying to push you a little bit to work with Excel at this point in time is the fact that you will be able to verify the models. Whoever gives you the models, if you have data scientists in your house, in your company, or if you hire some consultants to run the database for you, you can ask them to extract part of that database, okay, to be a small set of data set, to be smaller data sets, and then you can use these Excel functions to get some ideas about what you should do to formalize the analysis and so on. So let me move on. That's the foundations in mathematics and probabilities in some Excel. Going into statistics, these are the list of topics that I want to cover. We will take about 15 sessions or 15 minutes or so to cover these basic statistics, okay, until the advanced. I walk you from basic to advanced statistics. Okay, we work with descriptive statistics, which is average, medians, mode, things like this. Over the time, there's big questions that people don't really ask is, why do we need to find these descriptive statistics? And my answer is that you need to get to know your data sets, what it's like. Is it any difference than your competitors, or in the case that you operate retail stores, many branches, you can compare what is the average sales in one branch, comparing with the average sale with the other branch, and see, is that really different, okay, statistically? And if you see the difference, then you start discover the pattern in your data, okay? And from these patterns, we move on to the next step in statistic analysis, which could be, and by the way, in order to detect the differences in means, we use t-test. And in order to discover, okay, or seek for the patterns, we use correlations. And in order to find the cause and effects or some associations, stronger associations between sales and your type of customers, your customer income, your customer preference, your customer age, things like this, we start using regressions. And once we get to know the regressions, we can move on to the advanced level in statistics, which is in this case in my instruction for this foundation course would be the logistic regressions and time series regressions. Logistic regression is a very essential part in data science. It's factored in all the attributes or variables or the factors in people's life and decide whether these persons tend to say yes or tend to say no to your offer, okay? If you, how about one example like this? If you give free shipping for online platform, is it likely that your customer will say yes and buy this product? Okay, things like this will be handled in logistic regressions. Okay, and from this basic idea in statistics, we can move on to data science. Okay, and one last point in statistics here is the time series regressions. Time series regression is a very special thing in statistics. It doesn't have any factors that predict sales. You predict the sales revenues based on the previous sales revenues. And there are some conditions that we have to go through, but there are some methods to handle that. Okay, and I hope to go into more details, not as much detail as you might experience in your previous statistics course. My guess is that if you already have some statistics statistic course in the past, maybe in your undergrad program, you probably forgot or you probably don't understand any of those because at that level, your instructor tend to be very technical, forcing you to calculate it by pencils and papers and calculators. But at this time, we will work with Excel. Okay, we work all these things in Excel. So don't worry too much about statistics. We don't have to work calculus. We don't have to work some rocket science. We work some basic ideas to get to understand all these statistic techniques. Okay, so is it the last one in mind? Okay, yeah. All right. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Supasit. Yes, so far we have talked about the two areas already. One is the data science, which kind of is a predictive analytics that if you have a set of data, set of population, and you want to predict if the new guy comes in, or even the guy that that is identical to one of the sample in your population. So what is the likely outcome of that? And then we talk about this statistics. Of course, statistics will also help within that data science as well. Some of the things in statistics will be applied in the data science, of course. And so we're going to go into the next part, which is the management science. And in the course, we're going to cover two techniques, which are widely used and also the most useful in making business decisions. The first one is optimization. So I put in here in some graphical illustration that looks very kind of complicated, but don't worry. Again, in our course, we do not expect you to be kind of your data scientist or the person who develop optimization model. So we can use some tool. Excel is a very excellent tool for you to learn. And then after you understand Excel, when you go out and you need to work on some of the tool in the business, which is available, and I have had some experience with that also, especially with this optimization technique. There are many tools available and many companies are using that. So we will talk about optimization. So optimization problem is very, very important in these days, decision making in business, because we are in a really competitive world. You need to squeeze out as much profit as possible. So again, remember my example of the supply plan, like where to produce, when to produce, how much to produce, and produce for what, by how much, and when. Okay, you need to go into that specific question, because if you step out from what we call optimal solution, you will be more costly than your optimal competitor. And so now many business are doing optimization days in, days out. Okay? So we're gonna learn that in the course. Of course, we're gonna learn what it is, but we're gonna go into like the technical part of optimization, but you know what to exist and what kind of problem that can be formulated into optimization. So that's the first part of the management science. We're going to talk about optimization problem. The second part of the management science will be simulation. Okay, I got this picture from my favorite movie, The Matrix, okay, which is quite an old movie, but very, very good movie. You see, I think this guy is Neo. Okay, and so the world is a simulated place, and so simulation normally be applied to complex problems that cannot be analyzed by mathematical formula. Okay, because the world is random and complex. So in this course, we're gonna look at what kind of problems that can be analyzed and what kind of analytics that we will get from the simulation. Yeah, so you will know what, you know, some of the problems like optimization you may not have like thought about. Oh, okay, that you know, that these kind of problems, you know, we used to like think in our head and then try to come up with solutions. But in fact, if you use analytics and some of the techniques, you can come up with pretty good answer and will help you make better decisions. So simulation deals with randomness and complex system, and there are tools available. And then you learn about how you can formulate the problem into a simulation problem and will help you make better decisions. So we have covered the three parts: data science, statistics, and management science. So those are the three areas that we cover in this course. And so at the end of the course, what do you expect? So I would expect that after the course, ultimately you make better business decision. And along with that, you'll be able to determine what types of analytics can be used to make such decisions. You'll be knowledgeable in analysis techniques. Okay, so in the course, we will not go into the technical detail, but you'll be knowledgeable in the techniques, okay, for obtaining analytics. You will use more effective visualization. We haven't talked about, you know, in the previous slides, but in the course, we will also cover how you can tell better story using data. And we will understand how to use statistics and data science in business analytics. We'll be able to formulate the business problems and to prototype the solutions. So that is, those are the expectations at the end of the course if you take it. That's pretty much my presentation today, and also Dr. Supasit's presentation. So I would pass this to Dr. Roger, please.
Yeah, thank you ever so much for the presentation. That was a very nice 30 minutes that gave a snapshot of what's expected of anybody that wants to do the short course in this area. I see that we've got about 20 attendees, and I encourage you to use the Q&A box that you can hopefully see at the bottom of your page on Zoom to be able to go through and ask your questions. I know that Zia had a question in the chat box that related to Pakistan. See if you could go through and write in the Q&A your precise question. That would be very much appreciated. As we wait for those questions, I have a question myself, and that really relates to how far analytics is used in the business industry. How, you know, to what extent do they take analytics seriously? How widespread is the use?
Yes. So let me share with you my experience. I did consulting work with one of the leading beverage company in Thailand for almost 9 years, in fact. So it's as project after project after projects. Most of them are related to optimization, and forecasting, demand planning, which in the company I've seen, you know, the progress, okay, from day one that I started until like, you know, day year 10. Okay, so they implemented many tools. They implemented many things that will acquire the data and analyze the data. Some of the tools, for example, SAP, okay, that they have like the advanced planning and also integrated business planning tool, for example, which takes all kind of data and then doing some analytics, you know, to help them make decisions. I can give you some examples of those analytics. And in addition to that, they also use some really advanced statistics tools like SAS, okay, to analyze the data and doing all this kind of data analytics. Example, similar to example that I gave earlier. These beverage companies, which is alcoholic, by the way, they run a lot of promotions. They run a lot of targeting marketing. And then, but you know, they have a hard time understanding what works and what do not work. They have a huge marketing budget, but to put in the right place where they have to put it and what kind of activities, they have to understand that and then analyze this kind of data. Then they use statistical tool to look at and then weed out all these effects so that they understand what's the baseline and what works or what doesn't work. That's one example. And in this particular company, they also have like 12 manufacturing facilities, and they have like about 16 storage facilities across the country. And so producing where, when, and how much, to minimize all those costs, and so that they can compete. Especially, if you talk about this particular company also produce water, and one the leading one in Thailand, the margin is so slim. You just like change something apart from the optimal solution, they will make deficit already. So for them to stay profitable, they really need to be very, very precise in their business, and analytics will help a lot. And so I can give you this example, just to see actually business does do a lot of analytics in practice. Yes.
Thank you very much. Good. I can see that there's a question in the Q&A box. I would like to encourage the other 20 people who are listening to this presentation to use the Q&A box. But there is a question relating to how to quantify qualitative data, and I believe that Dr. Supasit will answer this question.
Right. If you mean qualitative data like text and sounds, there are the computer software or computer algorithm to extract those text and sounds into database, of course. One buzzword that people talk about this quantitative data is bag of words. And the application for this type of thing is the chatbot. You type, your customers want to talk to you. You are the online retail store. Your customer want to talk to you. You don't have to sit in front of your computers at all times trying to respond to your customer that may ask your questions quite randomly across that 24 hours in a day. You have your chatbot to respond to those questions. So this is the result of big data analysis, which is a bigger part of business analytics. But if you talk about qualitative data, like how you describe a person, is he females, males, if he has family or not, or singles, if he rich, how rich, and things like this. Yes, we have. If you want to transform these qualitative data, for example, genders, male and females, we simply do 0 and 1. You have one column in your data table saying that if the person is a guy, you assign number 1 to these persons. And if a person is female, you assign 0s to these persons. And on and on. This would help you with the statistic analysis and business analytics and so on. Is this answer your question? Is this exactly what you have in mind that you want to know? You can continue discuss this, your questions and my answer. Okay, please.
Okay, so while you wait for that, Supasit, there is another question here about the difference between regression and logistic regression.
Okay. Regression is basically for the data that has the characteristics like you describe the height of a person. It can be 6 feet, or it can be in metrics units, 120 centimeters, 130 centimeters, and so on. Okay, and this is for logistic. This is for regressions analysis. Let me give you one example. What do you think predict the income of people? You said it's the year of education, it's the size of this house, things like this. These are discrete variables or sometimes continuous variable. You can fit these variables into the regular regressions. But whenever you have the questions like, you want to know whether your group of, whether this person, your customers, will decide to say yes or to say no to your product offer. That yes and no is 0 and 1. And in order to find some factors that determine or predict this yes and no, 0 or 1, 0 or 1, okay, you need the logistic regressions. Okay, so there are the differences, major difference, and we will go over into details when we start the course in my part. And I hope this answers your questions.
There were 3 more questions that I can see in the box. Let's start off with Mohammed. Is data analytics decision at the end, is it judgmental or otherwise? Either of the 2 of you to answer.
Maybe analytics will help you minimize subjective decision. Okay, so at the end, somebody will have to make decisions, and whether or not it's judgmental or not, but data analytics, okay, or business analytics or analytics that we want to apply into the business will help you make that decision better by giving you measurable, okay, analytics that you can use, and so it will minimize subjectivity, and then you will make a decision more objectively. I'm not sure whether I answered that question, but Dr. Susit can add to that.
The results from the model, from data science models, will tell you whether you want to classify such and such person as the person tend to say yes or the person tend to say no. If the person tend to say no to your product offer, you don't waste your time trying to chase these people. So it's the behind the scenes, inside the calculations and algorithm before we get to the data science. It gives you the numbers, the chances. What are the chances this person will say yes? If the chance is about 30%, you classify it as no, the group saying no. So you don't waste your time chasing that people. If the result in logistic regressions say that this person has a chance about 60% to say yes, you will classify this person as the yes group, and you will go chasing after these people. Okay, so I guess it's giving you some suggestions of what you want to do with the result. Is that what judgmental that you mean to ask?
Mohammed, you might need to write back on that one to make sure that the question's been answered. But I can see another question below about, where is it? What are the issues resistance now for business applying analytics to solve problems or planning?
Okay.
So from anonymous attendee, question about resistance to the application of analytics within business.
I can share that with you, and I had this is thank you for the question, and this is very important in business. I did a project, okay, to implement advanced planning system, which does a really complex optimization in the business planning. And then they set up a team, okay, the business sets up the team, and then the team will need to do this optimization using such system that pull all kind of data. And then the implementer will have to write all these business requirements into that. And at the end, it took them 2 years just to adopt it. The resistance generally came from that the people who are doing this are not knowledgeable. And so this is a good chance that I can convey this. Today's business, okay, from the CEO or COO, they always push for every function to be as efficient as possible. And so doing this kind of optimization or using analytics to make decisions now are quite common and are demanded. And so if you don't have such skill, it will be very difficult for you to understand what's going on, because this analytics is quite complex, and sometimes you don't have your head around. It's just like a black box that you don't understand. And then when the system, okay, of course in data analytics or business analytics, generally you will need some tool, okay, computational tool. And then when it gives you some answer, the result, and you don't understand how how this system developed the result for you, it's just like a black box, and you understand it. When you don't understand it, you don't trust it. And generally, when people don't understand it, they will resist it. They will always say, okay, based on my experience, why the answer from the system that suggests me to do this is so different from what I did earlier. And I had no idea why that happened, because they don't know the techniques behind it. I'm not saying that you need to be able to write the program, but you need to know the concept. You need to be able to formulate the problem into this data analytics, and formulate that problem, and then so that you understand what's going on, and so you can read the results, you understand the results, and you know how the problems are formulated, and then give you the result so that you can act on it. So
okay, I see there's another comment in the Q&A, but I'm not entirely sure what the question is from Sukash. Is this about a definition, or
it is a statistic test? I didn't plan for chi-square test, but I can include that in the course materials. I can cover that, but I'm not sure what the participant asked about chi-square test.
Yes, perhaps we can have a little bit more clarity about that. And also from Zia. Zia has a question in the chat box, but it's if you can go through and explain what the question is about, the application of this within Pakistan, Zia. If you can go through and use the Q&A, that will help us out. While we're waiting for that, we've got about 5 minutes to go now before the end of this webinar. Maybe I can ask a question, because we've been talking a bit about qualitative ways of doing things. We've got people here probably who are not particularly good at quants. How difficult is the math in this particular course?
Not very difficult. It's not difficult. Short answer is that it's not difficult. The long answer is that I will just show you the idea behind this mathematics, how it works, what are the concepts, how would you make sense of all these equations, and how would you make sense of all these methodologies. Sometimes it contradicts your beliefs early on, but once you get to understand the concepts behind it, it could change how you view the problems. Okay. For example, we believe that smoking causes cancer. Why would we say that? Is there any mathematics behind this conclusion? It is true. It is true that cigarette cause cancers. How the researchers come up with these conclusions? Comparing with the other examples, a certain brands of breakfast cereal, okay, claim that eating these breakfast cereals every morning lower your cholesterol level. Is that true? Probably not. Okay, we talk about something like this, and the idea and the mathematics idea behind these conclusions, in order for you to advance your ideas into all these business analytics. Okay. The other examples in this thing is about eating eggs every morning. Would that lower your cholesterol or increasing your or the opposite? Or eating eggs increase the risk of heart attack? The keyword here is the risk. How would you evaluate the risk? And how would you compare the risks? Okay, things like this. Mathematically, it's quite difficult, but once you dissect it, separate the ideas okay, and then recombine it. You understand it better, and it will help you shape your ideas looking at the problem in business. So the short answer is not very difficult, and I excited to discuss all these things with participants in the course materials later on.
Let me add to that. I think that also adds to the expectation from the course. So this is the course for management students. So so we do not, we will not go into like the very technical detail. The purpose here is that you as managers and executives in the future, you need to be knowledgeable of all these techniques. Okay, so you will need to know like that there are techniques available that can help you develop some analytics that will help you solve some business problems. You will see, and I hope that you will learn in the course that there are problems that many people scratch their head when they actually, okay, this kind of problem, how can I come up with a good answer? Sometimes you just say, oh, there's no such techniques available for me that help me come up with a good answer. But in fact, there are, and you will learn about those, okay, in the course. And but we will not go into like the very technical detail. So just to add to that.
Thank you very much. I see that there's two final questions, one from Usman and one from Mohammed. Please, if you take a look at those questions and between you answer them, but they'll be the final two questions that we have in this webinar today.
If you have two models of comparable accuracies and computational performance, which model should I choose for productions and why? You choose the model that is easiest to implement. And the reason is that you need to reserve your resources for such and such implementations. And the other reason is that you want to communicate with all the participants in the systems. It is necessary for participants in your system to understand what they are doing, because from time to time, things doesn't go as planned. It's something we could refer to as the outlier in variables that could happen. If your participants understands what are you doing, what you are doing, okay, it would help you resolve the issues more effectively if it should occur, if it's occur. Okay, so I would suggest that you go for the simpler model. Okay, so maybe Dr. Rushworth want to add something on this?
No, I think you already answered on that.
Okay, what level of Excel be used in data analytics? Could some frequently used formula in data analytics be shared? Yes, we use regressions, we use some kind of array formulas, and we use the idea of Boolean expressions, if many ifs, okay, to see what kind of the tree structures look like if you just work with a small set of data in Excel. Okay.
Yes, let me add to that. Excel skills is very important these days. And Excel will help you, compute many things, and the interface is familiar. And let me share with you the example. Now SAP or very big names, companies, software, now they all embrace Excel. Even IBM with their business intelligence tool like Cognos now interface through Excel. And SAP in integrated business planning, which is their latest product in planning and advanced planning, also through Excel spreadsheet. And so Excel will be very useful. And so we will apply that. And then in this course, and Dr. Supasit also will utilize that to demonstrate all these techniques in analytics.
Wonderful. Thank you ever so much. Well, it's almost 12 o'clock, and I would like to go through and thank the two speakers today for coming over to give a kind of what we call a teaser, a summary of what will be included in their short course, which starts, I think, in 2 weeks' time, 2 weeks today. So for those of you who are interested in signing up, registering, the details have been provided in the chat box. And if any of you would like to go through, and maybe if you turned up a little bit late and cannot see that, then what I would do is I'll provide you with my email address, and by all means, please send me an email and I will respond, and I'll give you further details, both about the short course that these two faculty are providing, and also the new program, which is in business analytics and digital transformation. I'd also like to thank everybody here today. That I can see people from Nepal, from Kathmandu, from Cambodia, from Pakistan, from Thailand, and probably from Myanmar as well, and maybe other countries. So thank you ever so much for your time this morning, and maybe one or two of you it's the afternoon as well. There are other webinars coming up which are free of charge. There'll be two tomorrow evening. One is on an introduction to statistics for the International Finance Program, and one is on an introduction to the finance industry. So both of those take place from, I think, 6 to 7 or 7 to 8 tomorrow evening, and the details are on the AIT School of Management as well as AIT Extension website. But it's now 12 o'clock, and thank you ever so much, everybody, for being here today. I'll see some of you again tomorrow, and hopefully you'll join the two faculty for their short course in 2 weeks' time. Thank you very much.
All right.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
All right.
Good
Thank
night.
you. Bye-bye.